AM 1230 and 93.3 FM, KTRF, online, trfradio.com. Thursday means Hometown Hero time, and our Hometown Heroes brought to you by Roxbury Truck Repair, Thief River Falls Regional Airport, Phillips Iron and Metal, and the Evergreen Bakery and Catering. And our guest today in studio, Roger Oct. Roger, good morning.
Good morning, Mark.
Good to have you. And you know, it's been... We've opened it up for nominations and people to nominate somebody, and your name has come up 100 times at least for to visit with. And we're finally able to hook up with you and get you in, so thank you for coming in. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
All
it's
right.
Great for me to be able to put a face with a name now. So.
Yeah. Let's go back to the early years. Roger, where are you from? Where are you born and raised?
Oh, I was born in Roseau, Minnesota. I raised on a small farm out in Sky, Minnesota. And finished high school at Roseau, and then I went on to, in 1961, went on to continue my education at Bemidji State for 1 year, and that's the extent of my education. I went looking for employment in the spring of 1962, and I was given an opportunity to work for Edgar Hth down here in Thief River Falls. He had just started up Polar Manufacturing, it was called, and I got a job there for $1 an hour, and 57 years later, I was still there. So.
Tell us a little bit about, because I was reading a story, Roger, about the initial, your initial interview when you started. Your first interview. Talk about your interview with Edgar.
Yeah, it was kind of unique, and it showed me some life lessons, that interview, because I went in looking for employment, like I said, because I wanted to continue education, and I thought I could get a summer job. And Edgar had just started up this company called Polar Manufacturing at that time, and he was doing everything. He was nailing a crate together the day I came to interview, and I just was introduced to him by the receptionist, and we hadn't even begun the interview, and the receptionist said, "Edgar, you got a telephone call." And he took off to answer the telephone, and I stood there, and I stood there, and I stood there, and he never come back, and I noticed that when he left, he had dropped his nail apron on the floor, so I just... said, I can't just sit here or stand here, so I picked up the nail apron and I nailed the crate together that he was nailing. And so when he came back, he kind of was shocked. He seen the crate was nailed together, and he said, "Now, what was it you wanted?" And I said, "I was looking for some employment for the summer," I said. And he said, "When can you start?" He said. So that's how I got started out.
Work ethic back then, and not to pick on work ethic now, but back then you knew how to work, and that's why you picked up. I'm guessing why you picked up the hammer.
Yeah, it absolutely, and not only that, but it taught me something. If one of the life lessons that I did learn from Edgar was, if you want something in life, you got to show people you want it. So. Mm-hmm. That's how I've carried that through with my life.
Now, you're with Arcticat for many years. One of the passions that I understand you have is racing. Snowmobile racing is a big passion of yours, right?
Yeah, it is. It's become a life and a real strong passion. And I feel so strongly that snowmobile racing is such an important tool in developing snowmobiles. I was blessed to be able to work on snowmobiles, to watch them evolve for 56 years, be a part of helping develop and create that evolution. And over those years, it was very clear to me that racing is, in my opinion, the ultimate tool that can be used to further the technology in snowmobiles. My special friend Russ Ebert, I think, puts it very well when he says, you get a report card every week when you're racing, whereas if you're just developing something, you probably get a report card once a year when you go to the dealer show. But when you're racing, and if you don't find the results that you would like, you're getting a report card that week, so you better go home and work on it if you don't like it. And then even if you do like your results, you continue to work, because if you're just standing still, you're in the mode of being passed. So.
Mm-hmm. And boy, I tell you, one of the things I wanted to talk about, Roger, was the good years and bad years. The bad years being the one that everybody remembers from Thief River Falls, if you've been around this area, were the early '80s when Arctic Cat went down and then Artco came back up, and you were a big part of that. Talk about those years.
Yeah, we had, like I say, I've been blessed and thankful for many things, and because I'm first of all thankful that God brought me to Thief River Falls in 1962. It's where I found my wife, and it's where I continued to enjoy the passion of working on snowmobiles. And we had been doing that, enjoying that life for almost 20 years. In 1981, we come into hard times. The Arctic Cat brand come into hard times, and we went through a bankruptcy, and those were dark years in Roger's life. And I can remember when the CEO would come out to my office in engineering, and he would say, well, you got to let some people go today. And that would go on for another week. I think I had about 70 people on the team at that time. And it kept whittling down 3 or 4 times until I only had about 5 people left, one in each discipline on the snowmobile. And then he finally came one day and he said, well, you're going to have to let the rest of those people go. And I mean, it just tore me apart. And after he'd left, and I'd spoken with the 5 individuals that were left working on the team, I found myself for no reason whatsoever, but I went down in the engine shop, and I just tore an engine apart right down to the crankcase, tore all the bolts and nuts out and pulled the pieces out, bawling my eyes out as I continued to do that. And then I assembled it again. So when you lose something that you love, it's kind of tough, and those were tough times.
Mm-hmm. Now, it turned around, and it all came back. Talk about coming back then.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting, and well, for some reason, when you have a passion to work on something and it becomes a life, you continue to think about it, even though circumstances have shut the door. And myself and Dennis Orlowski and David Thompson, some other guys, kept thinking about snowmobiles and what you could do to improve that snowmobile. And so we were working on some suspension systems that we could probably retrofit on past Arctic Cat snowmobiles. And finally we got some discussion going with Bill Ness, who was very influential and part of the guy that helped get Arctic Cat going again. And I think it was in about 2 years we had put our heads together, and about 5, 6 individuals, and figured out how we could. Bill was instrumental in making a relationship again with Suzuki. He was really instrumental in talking to past dealers and distributors on would you buy snowmobiles if we could start building them again. And we was able to start building Arctic Cat snowmobiles in 1964 model in 1963. So it was 2 years that we were not building Arctic Cat snowmobiles. Mm. So it was a pretty joyous day, and I remember Ole Tweet was part of the team, and he would, his slogan, well, the best news in the snowmobile industry was the cat is back. So that was his slogan.
Yeah. And it was. And it's been going strong ever since. And now things change constantly. I know you finally retired here, yesterday?
No, I was, we discontinued our employment for the Arctic Cat brand in January of 2019. So, it isn't a year yet.
Yeah, it hasn't been that long.
But it's hard to quit thinking about Arctic Cat snowmobiles, and you want to do whatever you can do to make Arctic Cat the best snowmobile, and that was my passion for the whole entire life that I had on snowmobile.
All right. I want to talk more, Roger, in just a moment about the Arctic Cat snowmobile, a little more in detail in just a moment. First, I want to remind folks that Roxbury Truck Repair, of course, is a truck shop, a truck and trailer maintenance and repair. You can see Roxbury Truck Repair, Thief River Falls Regional Airport with hassle-free security and free parking. Be sure to check out the benefits of flying local. Thief River Falls Regional Airport, your front door to the rest of the world. Also, Phillips Iron and Metal. They accept all ferrous and non-ferrous metals, including but not limited to stainless steel, copper, brass, aluminum, lead, insulated wire, nickel, high-temp alloys, and precious metals. Whether you bring the materials to us or we bring us to you, we provide quality service at competitive pricing. And, of course, also Evergreen Bakery and Catering. Fresh donuts made daily, serving breakfast and lunches daily. Stop in and taste the love of Evergreen Bakery and Catering. They also sponsor our nominations. And for being a guest today, Roger, you'll get a certificate from the Evergreen Bakery and Catering as well. So thanks to them. Let's talk about the snowmobile and the Arctic Cat sled. Because you helped develop, you helped test, you did all this. What's one of your favorite years and models of the Arctic Cat sled?
That's a tough question, Mark, because seems like every snowmobile that our team was able to put together, we had a lot of pride in and so on. And there was many releases over the years. I think one of the biggest influences on the sales and models, a model that had the biggest influence probably on growing sales was back in 66, 67, 68 when we came out with the Panther model, and it was a model that was, I guess you could say, somewhat uniquely different than other snowmobile brands out there in that it was focused on lightweight. It was the first aluminum tunnel snowmobile. It was the first snowmobile with the engine moved off at the top of the tunnel and placed in front of the track shaft for low center of gravity, and with a spring-biased rear suspension, which was big and necessary in the industry to improve ride. So I'd say that the model over the years that had the biggest influence on improving sales and growing the market share for the Arctic Cat brand was probably the Panther.
Panther, yeah. It's been fun to see not only different models and how they've evolved over the years. They really have changed, but fun to see Arctic Cat grow as well, not only with the snowmobiles, but with ATVs and the side-by-sides and everything. So it really kind of opened the market for other things, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. And they're doing great right now. So things are going well.
Things are going well out there. I got huge confidence that the new owners that acquired Arctic Cat brand in 2017, I have all the faith that they're going to want to grow that brand and continue to improve the market share for the Arctic Cat snowmobiles, as well as the dirt products.
Yeah, no doubt. Roger, if before we leave today, just if you could give some advice to a young man or a young gal out there about getting into whatever it may be, because it seemed you didn't know what you were going to quite get into when you got into this. What kind of advice do you give a young man or young woman in getting into a career?
That's a great question, Mark. And I guess I'd sum it up by saying when you find yourself in a career, make sure you're out there and that you make tracks in what you're doing. And that means that every day you go in to your employment, that when you leave, you feel that you've contributed. You've done something. You've made some tracks that's going to make your job better for yourself and for any other people that you're working alongside there. So I think having a passion, looking at your employment as a life instead of a job. Some people call it a job. I was blessed to not have to call my employment a job. It was something I wanted to get up and go to every day because I felt that I wanted to. I had a passion to make a difference, and it makes for enjoyable life. And so I'd say make tracks would be a good advice for young people.
Well, and you certainly not only made tracks, but you left a lot of great tracks behind as well. So, Roger, thanks so much for coming in. I appreciate it. It's been a blessing to have you not only in Thief River Falls and all of northwestern Minnesota, but we thank you for coming into today's show too.
I am super thankful that I was able to spend my life working on something that I thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm thankful that it wasn't Thief River Falls, because I have found Thief River Falls to be a very outstanding home for my family and a place to live.
Thanks, Roger. Roger Skyme, our guest today on our Hometown Heroes, brought to you by Roxbury Truck Repair, Thief River Falls Regional Airport, Phillips Iron and Metal, and Evergreen Bakery and Catering. Our show, Hometown Heroes from Thief River Falls Radio.